If you're moving to Austin in 2026, there's a moment most people hit pretty early in their research where everyone starts to feel a little overwhelmed. You look at neighborhoods online, and at first they all kind of blur together. Prices don't always make sense yet, commute times are hard to picture, and every area is described with the same general words like great, growing, or highly desirable. And that's usually when buyers start trying to compare everything at once: schools, homes, lifestyle, commute, price, without really understanding how different each area actually is in real life. The problem is, Austin isn't a city you really understand by scrolling listings. It's a city you understand by understanding the neighborhoods first. So instead of trying to rank anything or tell you what's best, I want to walk you through 5 areas I would personally tour first if I were relocating here. Not because these are the only options in Austin, and not because they're the top 5, but because each one gives you a completely different version of what living in Austin can really feel like. Think of this as your starting point. Once you understand these 5, everything else in the market starts to make a lot more sense. Hi, I'm Megan Holley. I'm a realtor here in the Austin area, and I work with a lot of families relocating from places such as California, New York, DC, and other parts of Texas. And one of the things I see over and over again is that buyers don't actually struggle with finding homes. They struggle with narrowing down where they actually want to live, because Austin isn't one lifestyle. It's a collection of very different ones. So this video is meant to slow things down a bit and help you get oriented before you start making decisions. Let's start with Lakeway. Lakeway is where a lot of people start to see what Austin looks like when you shift away from close-in convenience and start prioritizing space and lifestyle. Compared to Westlake, Lakeway feels more open and more spread out, with a stronger hill country presence and a slower overall pace. This area sits near Lake Travis, and that really shapes the entire lifestyle here. You get more outdoor living, more lake access, marinas, golf courses, and neighborhoods that feel designed around space rather than proximity to downtown. In many sections, homes also tend to be newer or more recently developed, and lot sizes are often larger than what you'll find closer into town. The trade-off is commute time. Getting into central Austin takes longer, especially during peak work hours, and that's something buyers really have to factor in. But for many people relocating here, the trade-off is worth it because the day-to-day lifestyle feels very different. There's more room, more nature, a slower rhythm overall. Lakeway is often where buyers start shifting from what's closest to everything to what actually fits how we want to live. All right, we're going to move on to Westlake. Westlake sits just west of downtown Austin and is one of the most established residential areas in the whole city. One of the biggest reasons people tour Westlake first is location. Depending on where you are in the neighborhood, you can be about 10 to 15 minutes from downtown, which is extremely rare when you also consider the kind of residential setting you get here. What surprises a lot of people is that even though you are so close to the city, Westlake does not feel like a dense urban area. It feels quiet, residential, and very tucked into the hills. You'll see winding roads, mature trees, elevation changes, and homes that feel integrated into the landscape rather than built on a flat suburban grid. Westlake is also served by Eanes ISD, and people relocating here often take time to do independent research on attendance, programs, and information through third-party platforms like greatschools.org. It's one of those areas where buyers tend to do a lot of homework before making a decision, simply because schools, location, and long-term demand are all part of the conversation. In terms of housing, many 4-bedroom single-family homes in Westlake are currently ranging from the mid $1 million into the multi-million-dollar range. And that's depending on location, condition, lot size, and views. What you're really paying for here is access. Access to downtown, access to established neighborhoods, and access to one of the most consistently desirable residential areas in Austin. Next is Steiner Ranch. Steiner Ranch is a master plan community located between Lake Austin and Lake Travis, and it has a very different feel from both Westlake and Lakeway. The first thing most people notice when they visit is how structured everything feels. Instead of separate neighborhoods that just grow over time, Steiner is intentionally designed with trails, parks, pools, and community amenities built into the entire layout. So you're not just buying a home, you're stepping into a built-in community system that's already fully developed. A lot of families are drawn to Steiner Ranch for that exact reason. It feels organized, active, and very community oriented. There are walking trails, green belt access, recreational spaces, and a strong sense of structure throughout the area. Homes here tend to be more modern compared to some parts of Westlake, and pricing can vary significantly depending on size, location, and upgrades. What Steiner really represents is a middle ground. It sits between the convenience of closer in Austin and the space of farther out suburbs, while still feeling very residential and family focused. Next up is Round Rock. It's one of the most established suburban cities in the Austin metro area, and it gives you a completely different perspective on the market. The biggest difference here is value and scale. In Round Rock, you typically see more traditional suburban layouts, newer subdivisions, and a wider range of home sizes and price points compared to the closer in neighborhoods. The focus here is often on practicality, more space, newer construction, and easier access to everyday amenities. Round Rock is also a major employment and commercial hub in its own right, which makes many people feel like they don't need to go into downtown regularly. Commutes into central Austin are longer, but depending on where you work, that may not matter as much as it would in other parts of the city. For a lot of buyers, Round Rock is where the conversation shifts from lifestyle proximity to pure practicality. What do we get for our budget, and how far are we willing to live from downtown? And last is Dripping Springs. Dripping Springs feels like a completely different environment compared to the other four. This is where people go when they want more space, more scenery, and a more rural hill country lifestyle. The pace is slower, the land is more open, and you'll see more custom homes and larger properties. Even newer developments tend to be designed with more space between homes, which gives the area a very different feel from suburban Austin. In recent years, Dripping Springs has grown a whole lot, but it still maintains a strong hill country identity. There's more nature, more open views, and a stronger sense of separation from the city itself. The biggest trade-off here is distance. You're further from central Austin, and commute times reflect that. But for many buyers, that distance is not a downside. It's the reason they choose it in the first place. So those are 5 neighborhoods I would personally tour first if I were relocating to Austin. Not because they're the best and not because they are the only options, but because they each show you a completely different version of what life in Austin can look like. Westlake shows you close-in, established living with quick access to downtown. Lakeway shows you lake life and hill country space. Steiner Ranch shows you structured, master-planned community living. Round Rock shows you suburban value and practicality. And then Dripping Springs shows you space, scenery, and a more rural lifestyle. And what usually happens when buyers see all 5 is that they stop trying to decide which neighborhood is best, and they start figuring out which lifestyle actually fits how they want to live. And once you get closer on that, everything else in the home search becomes a whole lot easier. If you're in that early stage of trying to figure out where you fit in Austin, I'm more than happy to help you think through it. You can set up a short call with me in the link below. And if you're just researching right now, subscribe because I'll be going deeper into each of these neighborhoods. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.